And he was like, yes, I did come to this country with a very basic aim of earning £100,000 and then I'll move back. And then he said he did make that money, but it took him quite a bit of time to save that much of money. But then he said once he made that much money, he said like I'll make a bit more. So he moved to the UK in 1960s and it's 2020. And he could never go back. So what he told me is UK is like a sweet prison. I think that's what UK essentially is in a nutshell to us.
Hi everybody, you're welcome to today's episode of Maverick Med Podcast. It's your host, Dr. Hannah Brew, and I always find interesting international medical graduates to bring your way. And once again, I've done it. I have with me Dr. Aman Sharman. Welcome, Aman.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
I'm excited as well. So what we do on this podcast, Arwan, is that I let you do the heavy lifting. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself to us. Who are you, Arwan?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hannah. So, hi guys and girls. My name is Aman. I'm an international medical graduate hailing from India, graduating from Ukraine, and ending up in the UK in the middle of a national lockdown during COVID times. So that's me in a very concise way.
That was short and sweet, right? So now you didn't do the heavy lifting at all. You just left it back to me to do the whole thinking. So my cheat sheets didn't work.
I'm behaving more like a A&E doctor at the moment, though I'm a medical doctor by training now. But I keep switching gears, so I just gave the referral back to you, I would say.
Call A&E scenario. That's it. It's true. They just come in quickly and said, no, send to medics. Oh, no, send to surgeons. Yeah, that's very typical of it. Right. So, guys, what Aman does at the moment is that he is an internal medicine trainee, but he has other strings to his bow. So we are going to unpick it. I'll start from the fact that he said he is originally from India. Tell me, Aman, how did you find yourself from India to Ukraine?
That was a very interesting journey, to be honest. So, I went to Ukraine back in 2005, so it's not fairly new. I had some issues with, the medical colleges in my state. I didn't have the domicile to apply and so forth. One of my uncles used to send people to Ukraine, Russia to study medicine. And that's how I ended up going in there. So, yeah, I went in 2005. Finished my residency there in 2011. So I almost stayed 5.5 years. So yeah, absolutely crazy ride. Learning a new language, coping up with the weather is going to -40, loads and loads of snow, loads of people from different countries because that was the first time I had exposure from colleagues throughout the world. That's when I met people from Nigeria, Ghana, Middle East, and hence and so forth. So I think the journey actually began back in 2005 for me becoming this sort of vibrant person, I would say.
I remember that people I knew in Ghana who went to medical school in Ukraine, gosh, it sounded like a proper melting pot of different cultures because everybody and their mother was there, Ukraine, Pakistan, India, everybody was in Ukraine. And it sounded like you guys had lots of fun than what we did back at home. Would you say so?
Absolutely. As you said, the universities in particular were so culturally rich and diverse at the same time. When we actually, I would say, we used to lead two different lives. When we were in the university, it was very different. You keep meeting people from different nations, absorbing their culture and, their cuisines and their language and slangs. Like I learned how, if you see most of our Nigerian colleagues, when they meet each other, they would say, how far?
How far, yeah.
This how far? Well, I was introduced this how far back in 2005 when I think, I didn't even knew that I'll use it again. So, loads and loads of stuff which I wouldn't have expected there because we didn't have much of the local Ukrainian, Russian French, but we had French from all over the globe. And I think it actually was, so enlightening in a way that it opened my mind straight away.
Absolutely. So generally, people who go to such medical schools tend to have richer culture capitals because they know how to live with people and they are more tolerant of different people's cultures. Good one there. So from there, did you stay and do your residency in Ukraine?
So as I said, I finished my training, my MBBS in Ukraine in 2011. Then I went back home to India. We have a licensing exam there. Gave the licensing exam. Worked as the foundation year, as in the UK. We are called interns back home in India. So worked as an intern, and then I got into specialty training in emergency medicine. So I trained in emergency medicine, worked couple of years as a registrar in India. Then I would say 2018, 19 time, I was like, I need to travel. I need to see how Western world works, what's evidence-based medicine and how's NHS like and stuff. So I was very particular and I was like, let's go there, let's do this.
Was
And
it just
that's when
curiosity? Was it just curiosity for
absolutely.
you? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you rope what you see. So I think the curiosity had itself started when I went to Ukraine, and when I went back home, it never felt like home. You mean like, because your parents are there, your relatives are there, but all the people you met during your school time who might would have been your friends have gone into different directions. So they are not there. And the friends you made in Ukraine were from all over the globe. So when you went back home, they were not there either. So you started your journey as a lone ranger again. So it felt a bit odd, I would say. So it took me a quite decent time to, re-assimilate myself and back into the Indian culture, make friends, make connections, and hence and so forth. And I think when that started working a bit better, I was like, I need to move. And here I am in
Aman, I
UK.
find your story very relatable. Although I went to medical school in Ghana, in my few years, I mean, it's been almost a decade now of being outside, you realize that is the bane of a traveler. You become too posh for home and you become too local for the new place, So at the end of the day, you're like, I don't quite belong. Who am I? Where is home? That's a difficult question for you to define, and you're constantly
Absolutely.
reminding ourselves that where is home, because it looks like we are lost forever.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a song in the Rocky movie, I'm a stranger
Mhm.
in a no-name town or something like this. And I always
That's a
felt the
song.
same. Like,
Yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah,
it's the journey, isn't it? Once you've left your house, you left your home, your parents, and you've just left them, isn't it?
yeah. And if you don't take care, there's this perpetual desire to keep moving. So when I find my friends who are like, oh, we're going to Canada, we're going to Australia, I'm like, I'm not going to let this bug catch me again. That's me done, really. Do you also feel that way, that maybe after your training, you're going to move somewhere?
I mean, trust me, I'll tell you a very, very brief example of this. Okay, so I moved to UK in 2020. Okay, 2020 was a strange year for us all, isn't it? COVID, lockdowns, and whatnot. So, I mean, there was an off-license shop just in front of my apartment. Okay, so I used to go there, and it was owned by a gentleman who was originally from India. So I went to him, a couple of times. I started talking to him, and I asked him, like, Uncle, wasn't there a time that you felt you should go back to India? And he was like, yes, yes, I did come to this country with a very basic aim of earning 100,000 pounds, equivalent to the Indian currency, and then I'll move back. And then he said he did make that money, but it took him quite a bit of time to save that much of money. But then he said once he made that much money, he said, like, make a bit more, a bit more. So he moved to the UK in 1960s, and it's
Oh, no.
2020, and he could never go back. So what he
Yeah.
told me is UK is like a sweet prison. It's like what he told me is like, if you hear the song Hotel California, it's like, it says, you can never, there's a rhyme onto it, like you can check out in any time you like, but you can't never leave. I think that's what UK essentially is in a nutshell to us.
So what made you in 2020 to decide to move in finally? You had taken your claps prior to that, I suppose.
So I'll tell you about a pathway, and I don't know much of our international colleagues know or not. I did not have CLAP. I did not have complete membership exam. I was thoroughly sponsored for my GMC registration. So
Oh,
there
wow.
is a
I didn't know
third
there was a
pathway.
pathway like that. So thank you
Yes,
for
so there
coming
is
and
a
sharing
third
it with us.
pathway. If you've got plenty of experience back home in some specialties,
Hmm.
there is a sponsorship pathway in which you don't have to have the entire set of membership exams, and you've not given PLAB, that's no issue at all. That's why I started making videos on my channel UK Dreamers, because when I was coming here, when I started looking about on the internet about the sponsorship pathway, how does it work, what sort of visa you get, what salary you get, nothing was barely available on the internet. Even the Royal College of Physicians is the biggest employer in terms of giving sponsorships. They have their scheme called Medical Training Initiative, but other than that, there was nothing much. So I was like, oh man, this looks like, this could be an opportunity to create some awareness, grow. So that's how I started making my videos on my channel. Initially, all my videos were about the sponsorship in various specialties: emergency medicine, psychiatry, surgery, pediatrics, gynae obs, and hence and so forth. That's how I grew as a, YouTuber, I would say.
Wow. And I would leave your link below so that if anybody is interested, by all means, check it out. It's called UK Dreamers. Lots of funny videos. But apart from the funny part, it's really educative. If you are considering relocating into the UK, you're not sure how to do it, and you're trying to move, doing maverick stuff like he did, not going through the normal way, then he is your go-to guy. It's definitely Dr. Aman Sharma's UK Dreamers YouTube channel that you should check it out.
Thanks, Hannah.
So
What I would also
you,
like to add, Hannah, here,
yeah.
people say, there's a general mindset, in the UK, like, oh, we're getting too many people from abroad, we're getting too many immigrants and stuff, and that's diluting our culture and stuff. So that's what I wanted to challenge here, I would say, because see, I understand their concern, where they're coming from. We bring our own cultures, but the trouble I feel is we are never subjected or never exposed to the British culture. For instance, for me to make that I could confidently say that, oh, I've got so many British friends. It took me about 3.5 years even to make British friends, go out to the pubs with them, or you go out for drinks, have a random conversation. I'm not saying they're
Yeah.
not welcoming. They are welcoming, but for us to blend into their culture, learn about their values, and learn about the basic ethics of the British culture, I think there is nothing for us to learn it from. People make videos, like we all do make videos, but I think there's so much for us to learn. It helps us in so many ways. It helps us in our integration. It helps us in adapting into the practice, what to say to the patient, what not to say to the patient, and hence and so forth. There's so many things surrounding it, but I feel essentially, yes, we move here, we want to pursue dreams, we want to get big in life. That's the reason we all have moved here, isn't it? And this land does give us the opportunity, but equivalently, it does not give the equal amount of exposure to the British culture, and then we don't learn about it, and then people would say, oh, these guys don't respect our culture, they don't know anything about our culture. So I think there is a necessity where we need a bit of blending in, whereas if chicken tikka masala is the national dish of UK, I don't know what's the British dish equivalent to chicken tikka masala, because I don't know anything about it. So I think there's a
Bless you.
big need.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you there. I'm with you there. I'll let you in on something, Ahmad. So when I first moved into the UK, someone told me that you never make tea for yourself alone. So if you're at
Mhm.
work and you are going to make yourself a cup of tea, you ask everybody. And even if it means making a little list, you make a list and then you get everybody's preference. So I was going around, what would you like? Coffee, tea? And then I asked someone, how do you like your tea? Do you want it with milk and sugar? And she said, please. Does that mean yes or no? So I asked again. She was called Sharon. I said, Sharon, did you say you wanted it with milk and sugar? She said, please. I said, God. So this is what I did. I made 3 cups of tea and I made one black, no milk, no sugar. I made another one with milk without sugar. And I made one with milk and sugar. And I said, when I come, whatever she meant by the please, she can choose it and then I'll drink the rest. Because I didn't
Yeah.
understand what they meant by please. And apparently please meant yes. So it's like, yes, please. And I didn't know, so I said, what does she mean by that? So these are some of our struggles as international medical graduates who even speak English. I mean, I feel bad for people who don't even speak English. It must be really hard for
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah. I mean, Hannah, you would also appreciate this, the extent to which we as international medics or international healthcare workers go through to blend in, essentially, isn't it? Like because the example you gave, because you wanted to make sure that they were happy with the tea you brought in, you made 3 teas, not one. And you were ready to sacrifice your own, the way you drank tea, like for instance, if she asked you for a tea with milk and two sugars, and you made that milk and tea like with two sugars for yourself, you would have happily given it to them.
And
But
on a
I
normal
think,
day, I don't even like tea. I'm a hot chocolate girl.
yeah,
But I
so I
come to
think
work and
we
I'm
try
drinking
too
tea.
hard.
Yeah, we do. We do bend back and beyond just to try to blend in. That was an invigorating conversation, and it was quite honest for us to share what our experiences are as international medical graduates. So you came in, was it known as the local employment doctors? Is it the LED program, or
It was
so
similar
different?
to that. Yeah, it was similar to that. But yeah, if you go to the GMC's website now, when I came here, there were just 39 bodies or trusts which could essentially give you a sponsorship. The list has gone over 70 now. So
Ooh.
many of the colleges and trusts, basically they wanted to cut down the recruitment costs. So they directly went to the GMC and said, if we think that this guy is eligible as per the, criteria which have been given by the GMC, we would like to bring these doctors directly to us. So they did make a smart move. It cut their recruitment cost significantly. It did give them a good stability in terms of locally employed doctors. So I think it was very, very smartly played.
Absolutely. It sounds like a no-brainer, to let you jump through the hoops when actually people are waiting to be seen. So yes, by all means. I saw this comedian on is it Instagram or something, and he has this really straight look on his face, and he says he doesn't understand why every time the ambulance is going round, they expect you to make way for them. And then he says, yeah, I mean, why are they in a hurry? Because when you get to the hospital, the waiting time is 7 years anyway.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. I've seen that video.
Yeah. Oh, we really need doctors.
Yes, I mean the way the NHS is essentially isn't it? Like, yes, there's a good number of international healthcare workers. I was reading about it. Over 20% of the workforce is now internationally trained or trained outside the UK. Number of nurses are about 26-27% who've been trained outside the UK. But I think equally this is a very challenging time for the doctors, essentially because there's a lot of complications going on in terms of funding, lack of number of places where they can employ doctors, hence and so forth. So I don't know, like we keep reading news, isn't it? Like there's no much jobs for GP. Even a very interesting conversation I read a couple of days ago was that a few of the A&E colleagues, like emergency medicine colleagues who've done their CCT, are struggling to get a substantiative job. That was nerve wracking. I was like, oh man, now the competition, or the
We
complexity.
needed more A&E doctors, and to hear that they've CCTs and they are not getting jobs, it sounds.
Yeah. I mean, I did hear an interview. It was posted on the LBC, and it was one of the doctors who was talking to the radio presenter. Essentially, they're like, that yes, we are saying that we are short of doctors, but there are still not enough employability options for the doctors. And this person who had called, he's like, I've even worked as a Uber driver before I could get a job. So
In
I
the
mean, look at
UK, or is it
in the
Canada you're talking
UK,
about?
in the UK, in the UK. I could send you the link, and we could also post it in
Wow. Wow,
so
that's
it was.
interesting. Because I've heard about this joke that one of the best places to have a heart attack is in a Canadian taxi driver's car because most of them are doctors, A&E doctors. So if you are in
Oh,
an Uber in Canada, by all means, you can afford to tip over because you're in safe hands. Chances are that your driver is a doctor. Interesting. So coming in, how was your experience? Did you feel welcome? You did come in with a 3-year-old and a pregnant wife. Gosh.
absolutely. I think we were way too courageous, because I think my wife was, in her 6th month of the pregnancy. My elder daughter now was about 3.5 years. And I had just recovered from a bad COVID in India, and we were like, just let's go, man. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. I would say, when you do good deeds, it comes back to you in some way or the other. And that's
Like
what I was
karma.
blessed in. Yeah, essentially because when I came in here, yes, it was the national lockdown. So I ended up coming to Birmingham airport, and there was, you couldn't get the taxis that easily and stuff. So the trust I used to work, they had a very good system. It was called the buddy system. So they had assigned me a person who was from, for me, this gentleman was from Pakistan. And I was a bit hesitant because, you still can't go and directly approach people. So I did ask him, he's like, what else do you want? How else can I help you? How else can we support you? And I was like, boss, I'll be really grateful if you could send someone with a cab or give me a number of any cab because I'm not very sure how. And because, you don't have the currency that time. I
Mm,
did have some notes, but I was told that you can only use by tapping cards. They're not accepting cash and stuff. And I did have an international credit card, but it didn't
mhm.
have a massive limit to it. I think it was just 500 pounds or so. So, so
Ooh.
much of worries in the head. But yeah, this gentleman managed to send me a person who used to work in the same hospital as a porter, but he was doing a side gig. So he was a Filipino. He came to pick me up. I came back to the place which I already rented. I mean, that time you have to stay 2 weeks in a quarantine, and the trust wasn't paying for it that then. So I mean, I was like, I'm not gonna pay for hotel and the place. So I luckily managed to get an apartment. So I directly came in there. So yeah, this gentleman was there. Next day he brought me some goodies, chocolates and stuff and fruits and
Oh,
everything.
that's really kind.
Yeah, and he asked me, "Is there anything I can get you, Aman?" And I mean, my wife was 6 months pregnant, and it was difficult for her to lie flat. We did have the beds and everything. It was a furnished flat, but we didn't have pillows. So, with a big hesitance in my head, I just asked him, "Boss, can we get some pillows if that's okay with you?" And he had finished his night shift. He could have said no to me, but he didn't say. He was like, "Okay, let me get it sorted." So he went. He might would have gone home. So his wife picked up his the pillows. He brought the pillows to me. And I was, man, this is something unreal. And it never
It's really
stopped. I think couple
kind.
of days, yeah, couple of days later, the place I work now in Wolverhampton, there's a A&E consultant now, and he came to my place. He brought me two big bags of groceries, including cooking oil and chips and whatnot. And I didn't ask for this. This was just the sort of welcome I got. And I was very lucky in a way that I got this sort of treatment. And that's what I continued essentially. That's why I made the channel. And, I just tried helping as many guys and girls I could. I still try to do it. Same like with you, Hannah, as well. The reason you do this podcast is not just because to be, appearing in somewhere, and someone
Just to
recognizing
pay
you.
it
It's
forward.
a passion. Yes, you
Yeah,
just want to give it back to the society, isn't it? I think that what makes us special.
absolutely. And oh, I like your shirt. No risk, no story. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you did take the risk and it's paid off now. You're having this conversation because you decided to take the deep dive into it. So tell me, did you go straight into training or what role were you employed into us?
Yeah, I was brought in as a senior clinical fellow, so at a registrar level, but the A&E team wanted me to be as a SHO, and the year later they would put me into the registrar rota. But while I'd moved in, the world had changed so much, isn't it, during COVID? Like, I was deeply scarred working in emergency medicine back home, where I had
Yeah,
to
that
make
was
a
because it
choice.
was still COVID
Yeah, I mean,
thereabout.
I still remember days, where I had five patients in the waiting room and I just got one bed with oxygen. And I had to make a call, whom could we save? And yes, you have the political pressure and the pressure from the hospital. Yes, you have to take this. But yeah, if five people are sitting and you see a 18-year-old who's having a bad COVID, you would take that, pick that up, isn't it? But essentially, you've also got a 50-year-old who's got their kids and stuff. It was such a, I would say, unpleasant role that I played for almost 5, 6 months while I was, dealing with the COVID pandemic in India. It scarred
Mm,
me, to be honest.
mm,
And when I
mm.
came here, I was like, okay, man, I've done enough for emergency medicine. I think it's time to move on. And I thought, okay, let me switch to acute medicine. It's still the same, but a relatively lesser paced and, still gives you the opportunity to do a couple of things.
I'm not sure if it
Well,
is,
I mean,
but okay.
yes, I would say sometimes the mistake you're going to commit appear is more pleasant. I mean, here I was.
What you're gonna say after all what you're going through, you're going into psychiatry.
Yeah, I should have taken it. I mean, to be honest, I was just having this conversation with my friend this morning, like, oh man, if I
Yeah,
would have taken GP, I would have been finishing as a GP registrar in the next five
yeah,
months. And
because you're
at
nearly,
least I would
yeah.
have done with the training. But yeah, here I am jumping from emergency medicine to medicine. So I became an internal medicine trainee.
Mm-hmm,
I think I worked as a trust grade almost for 2 years before jumping
mm-hmm.
and taking a leap. And then I started IMT. So currently I'm a IMT 3 and I'll be finishing this year end because I'm less than full time now, which also we can have a conversation about.
Definitely, definitely. So I know that when people talk about less than full-time training, which is not the 40 hours stipulated time, and usually people would ask for it for various reasons. And I was less than full-time trainee for a long while. I mean, if you don't know, you know today that it took me almost 6 years to finish GP training. So when people say, "Oh, I should have gone to GP because it's a quick 3 year," I said, anything can happen. But
Yeah,
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 touch wood, if nothing happens, yes, you do the quick 3 year run through. So tell me, how
true.
was your experience applying for less than full time?
Excellent question. I did come to know about less than full time when I was working in A&E itself. And I think 2 3 years ago I did make a video with one of the consultants now, Ben Arnold. I made a video with him about less than full time. But that time also it was more of a superficial thing that I made. But I think during my years as a IMT, I had some health issues with my back and stuff. I did have some surgery. So I was like very clear in my head, I am not going to work full time now. I have to go less than full time. And during this journey, I would say I got selected for the NHS Clinical Entrepreneurship Programme last year. So the main precipitating reason, yes, it was going deep down in my head, oh, I should go less than full time and stuff. But I still remember I went to one of the pit stops of the entrepreneurs program, and the boss there, Professor Tony Young, he would usually ask you, how your things are, how's your well-being and stuff. Then in a room full of about 50, 60 people, he asked me like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm totally, in a lost space, doctor, professor, because I think, as a full-time trainee, as a father, as a budding entrepreneur, there's so much going on that at times I don't have a clue what am I essentially doing. And you have your exams and this and that. And then he asks
ARCP
me,
come in.
yeah, 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 exactly. So, and then he asks me, so what are you going to do about it? And, and then I was like, I think I'll go less than full time. Give me some breathing time and see how things are. And then he's like, see, you had a problem, you had a solution, you were just not understanding how to implement it. I think you've got your answer now. And I think that was the day, when I talked with him, I was like, man, this is it. I have to do this. If I want to be a bit sane, I have to do this. Well, I just came back from that pit stop. The next time I met my education supervisor, I just went to him and I'm like, boss, I want to go lesson full time. And he was like, absolutely, I don't see a reason why not. So I think that's it. There's a pro forma. I filled the pro forma. Went through a couple of trainees who had been less than full time because the financial implications and the
Yeah.
and once I was like, okay, man, let's do it. I just went for it, and I think people feel it's very hard to get into less than full time. I would say, guys, if you've not tried it, try it. It's life changing. I would say, at the moment, me and Hannah, we're recording this. Otherwise, it would have been a normal working day for me. So now, if I want to do anything in life, which can be traveling, which can be going, seeing some concert, going out with my kids, hanging with my friends, making podcasts with brilliant people like Hannah, I just don't think twice. I would like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
That's what the difference it's
absolutely.
made to me.
And I always say that what's the worst that the results will be? It will be a no. You're not going to die. You're not going to lose your job. So just ask. If you
No,
don't ask, you don't get. Because if you don't ask, you've already eliminated yourself from the process. And I think now because there's a drive more and a push towards diversity, equity, and they are making the process more flexible. Because in 2018, when I was applying for less than full-time training, I was on a visa by then, and people said, oh, you're not going to be able to do it because you're on a visa. You need to get a certain amount of money to be able to do it. And gosh, it was really discouraging. But personally, I had my health conditions and I couldn't have made it if I didn't go less than full time. But thank God I had really supportive training program
absolutely.
directors. Yes. And then they
I
said,
mean,
yeah, I think it's a good idea.
you said a very good thing there, Hannah. I think with the system in the UK, the culture here basically is if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it.
No, because
So
no one is
uh,
going to come pick you. It's like
no,
asking for
no,
your tax back. You could be due a tax return, but hardly. I mean, I have had this only once. If you don't ask, you don't get it. Simple. It's as simple as that.
absolutely, absolutely. So for all the viewers who wanna listen to the podcast, guys and girls, if you made the leap, if you're already in the UK, you're planning to come in the UK, and you've got some ideas, some thoughts, some concerns, talk about it, share them out, discuss them out. There are plenty of support here. I think we as international medical graduates are so worried, and I think we carry this taboo on our small shoulders that oh, what, I'll be judged, oh no, if there is a gap in the rota, I'll be held responsible. No, guys, not. If they've made a system, you can go 60%, 50%, and if there is anything which is pressing you to take that step, take it. Don't think twice, just take it.
Absolutely. And my mantra for this year is that dead men don't work. You need to be alive and well to be able to give off your best at work. I mean, no matter how much you
Absolutely.
think you love your work or you think your work loves you, no one's going to keep a corpse at work to do anything. You need to be alive. And when we talk about being well, we're talking about physical health, mental health, emotional health, and even your spiritual health. So you need to be, it's like a chair. You need to make sure that all your four legs are standing well and right. And if for any reason your leg is broken, then you become a dodgy chair and you're not safe for us to sit on as a doctor. So please
Yeah.
take care of yourself, reach out for help, talk to someone, drop me an email, send me a DM, talk to me. I'm here to listen. And if I can help you personally, I can signpost you to someone who can give you the needed resource or support.
Hannah, what I would also like to add here is a very, very vital component is the financial well-being. I mean,
Ooh,
yes, a couple of friends like Andy is doing great stuff, telling us about the basic
yeah,
money. And even
yeah.
if you go to my website, ukdreamers.org, there's a very small 1 hour sort of basic financial class. It tells you how what your money is, what it's coming in, and how can you save a bit. I'm not talking about investments, I'm not talking about big things. It's the very basic that we as international graduates have, I would say, taken a long time to adapt in. And I still have made so many financial mistakes which
Haven't we all?
if I retrospectively think I could have saved a lot of money. But that's life, that's how you learn, isn't it?
I don't know if in India you guys have the same thing, but we as Africans, we have something known as the black task. So it is this type of unwritten rule that you need to send money back home. You guys have the same.
It depends. Depends. I'm not
Uh,
saying it's a very committed thing, but yes, many of us do send. I would send it as and when I can, because as I said, my wife though is a doctor, she's still not working with the taking care of the children. I'm still
yeah.
sorting a membership exams. So yeah, once I would say one more thing, Hannah, honestly feel if you've got a couple and both are working, I think you save more money because your tax brackets are a bit less. You can do a couple of locums, you can invest a bit more. But if you're a sole person earning, I think yes, money is something that you need to be very cautious of because it's a very stressful condition when you don't have money and your drafts are overbooked or something. So I would say that's one thing we also should work on as medics, as any
Absolutely.
person should
Yeah.
do.
I agree with you 100%. Look, I have been in this UK at a point where I was unemployed and I didn't know when my next salary was coming from. And well, British Gas doesn't care about that. I mean,
No.
once you need to turn on your gas and electric and your water, you need to get money coming in to be able to sort that out. Otherwise, you need to find the right people, if it's a citizen's advice or if you need to go to your local council or someone to get you the needed support. Otherwise, you are in deep business.
And yeah, as Hannah told guys, if you don't ask it, you don't get it. Always
If
ask
you
for
don't
it.
ask, you don't get. Yes. If you don't ask, you don't get. Oh, that was a good conversation there. So now tell me about the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur.
Yeah. So
What's
I
that?
would say it is essentially the best decision that I've made since I've been here in the UK. It's truly life changing, not only from the prospect of networking and socializing with people, which I was brilliant at, but also if you've got any sort of ideas which could make a change in the patient care, improve their care, improve the workforce plan, improve the logistics with the NHS, and help NHS save money in the longer run. The NHS is ready to invest on you. They've got a program called NHS Clinical Entrepreneurship Programme. Applications open every year in October. There's a good 50 question, application. You have to pitch yourself with a minute, I think, and post all of those stuff. There's a lot of information available if you go and search on LinkedIn or even the internet. But yeah, I would say it has been truly life transforming. Even now, after we've done our podcast, I'm meeting my mentor from the entrepreneurs program, and he every time gives me a task. He gives me a couple of challenges. How would I sort this and that? And I mean, what to say, Hannah? It's once in a lifetime thing that you get to do. If you can get it in, oh man, there's nothing like it.
So you have spoken extensively, but let's break it down a bit. Who do I have to be to qualify for this? Do I really need to have like a really huge idea? What was your idea? Maybe we can use you as a benchmark.
So, like for me, the thing, my YouTube channel, what I was essentially doing is making the transitioning better, making people, get adapting in quickly and making their life a bit easy. Is that was my basic idea, if I can make it happen. People have done brilliantly, there've been some unicorns. They've made their medical devices, they've made some AI stuff, they've made basic patient care, they've taken hospital out of from hospital into the community. People have done so much into it, but for you must have a basic idea. Oh, okay, like I'm gonna do this and this was have this sort of implications. Doesn't necessarily mean you should have a prototype ready or your market value product ready, but if you've got basic idea and you can make it work, that's what the program is for, to nurture you in terms of all the intellectual property stuff, the medical legal stuff, financial stuff, how you raise finances and this, that, branding, advertising. It basically, it's a sort of unofficial MBA without any money that you pay.
Absolutely. It sounded very much like that to me. Yeah, so it sounds like an NHS is sponsoring you to do an MBA, but this one with hands-on
See,
experience as
people
well,
have asked
because you
me,
have a big
like,
institution as
what does
NHS
NHS?
too.
Yeah, so I mean, people have asked me how it can help. So that's what I'm saying, guys. They've also asked me like it's too good to be true, and why would the NHS invest in you? So the answer that I've got from the peers and the bosses essentially is anything that you do, if it makes a difference to the patient's life, is welcomed by the NHS, which is, again, a very special system. So I would say make use of it, guys. Make sure that it develops your skills. Like I've thoroughly enjoyed my journey. It's a shame that I'm finishing my cohort next month, but if you get a chance, definitely go for it, guys.
How competitive is it to get into it?
It is quite competitive because it's not like your idea should be, as I said, fully ready, but they want to see if it's going to make an impact to the people's life, if it's going to impact our patients in the longer run, help the long-term NHS workforce plan. So essentially, if you've got something which is not related to the patient care or benefiting NHS, they might say no. But usually now what they've started is even the patients, the NHS patients can apply for this program. They're called patient entrepreneurs, and we've got really good, smart, and logistical thinking patients who've made their good companies and made a big difference. But as far as for clinicians, you have to be a part of the NHS in some way or the other. So if you've left the NHS, you are not eligible. You have to work with the NHS in some or the other role. It can be 60%, it can be 2 sessions a month or whatever. If you're employed with the NHS in some or the other role, even in the private practices, GP practices, if you're doing some sessions, you still count as an NHS employee. So I think if you have done it, you are eligible. You must have a brief idea of what you're going to do, how it's going to make a big difference to the patients or the NHS in total. And I think that is it. Even if you don't have the complete idea and stuff, they are there. Their team is there to make you going from, I would say, a black carbon to a sparkling diamond.
Lovely. I like that. I like that analogy. Almond has to run away. But before you go, Almond, do we need to know how to pitch?
Absolutely, guys. I mean, pitching is the bread and butter for any entrepreneur. It's like your pitch should be ready every time. Even if someone wakes you up in your sleep and says pitch, you should be able to pitch. It's that sort of, enthusiasm and commitment to it. Like, for instance, we are always asked to prepare a couple of way of pitches. You should always have a 1 minute pitch ready, which essentially summarizes you and your innovation, what's your ask and what you're going to gain. The more better one is a 2 minute pitch in which you can, glorify your stuff and essentially ask for a big investment or big sort of support or whatever. And the bigger one is usually a 5-minute pitch deck where you should have few slides, couple of slides, which takes you to the roller coaster ride of where you were when you started it, where you are now, and where do you see yourself in 5 years. So that's, I
Aman,
would say,
I
yeah,
would say this is too good for you not to come back and teach us how to. So, guys, Aman has to go, but he's going to come back. We're going to make a date again, and he's going to teach us how to pitch. I think it's a no-brainer. As a doctor, even when you're trying to refer your patients, it's like you're pitching. You need to be able to sell your case. Well, as a GP, I need to be able to sell my case every day so that the doctor or the consultant in the hospital is not going to say no. And this is a skill that we all need. We need even as parents. We need as a spouse. If you're trying to buy a car, you need to tell your wife why you should buy the car. So this is a skill that we need to all get. So Aman, thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to let go of you and then we'll come back again. And then you tell us about how to pitch and a bit more about this entrepreneurship program. And also, you are an ambassador for the Core 20+5, isn't it?
absolutely.
And then we can delve more into that. And then you tell us more about the UK Dreamer. I like the name. Who isn't dreaming? The UK
Absolutely.
Dreamer.
Thank you so
Right.
much, Anna. It was really, really, enlightening for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and the podcast. And yeah, as I said, I will be back even better.
That's a
And I
promise.
will make sure that, everyone who is listening to this, watching this, has the worm inside them to pitch day
Right.
in, day out. As you said, Hannah, if you want to go out on a date, I will tell you how to pitch yourself in 1 minute.
Thank you. So, guys, that's us for today. And we would say bye for now.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Cheers. Bye.